That's one thing I will give Zionists. They are committed, okay? That is a committed cause.
People out there, tell your significant others, you commit like a Zionist.
Yes.
Okay, you get down on your knees, put that ring on, and you commit like a Zionist.
Make me believe it.
For 75 years or more.
Yeah.
Welcome to Friday Night Semites, where we actually know what a Semite is. Do you know what a Semite is, Josh?
A little bit. I do know that that's the question that everyone's been asking me since I told them the title of this show.
Yeah. So what do you tell them?
I tell them I'm gonna ask my co-host Sammy Obeid. So I mean, most people think Semite, they think Jew, but I know it's a little bit broader than that. So why don't you tell us what you know?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm a math guy, right? So
Obviously.
whenever I used to hear Semite or anti-Semite, I would be like, are these people against Semite circles or what is it?
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Semite, it comes from it has the same root as semi, which is like partial.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we have partial information on this situation.
So this is what I know of
Yeah.
the history, and I know you can break it down for me. So I know that the term Semite started in the 1800s.
It was in the 1700s, actually.
Thank you for the math correction. All right, obviously we got a fact checker here.
Partial information.
There it is.
Yep.
So it started in the 1700s, and like
By a German linguist.
Yeah, which is
so
always
you can
a
already
good place
see,
to start.
Yeah, where the problem started here.
he was trying to break up different linguistic groups, and like a good racist German, which is my favorite kind.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. For sure, I said it. He broke it down into there was the Aryan languages. And then there was the Aryan languages was like Northern and Western Europe, of course. There was the Hamite languages, which was like North African, and then there was the Semitic languages.
I'm glad they separated the Ham from the Semitics.
Got to keep it kosher. So, and so the Semitic languages, I know it was Hebrew, but also Arabic. Also, shout out to Aramaic, Amharic, a lot of other ones. And so I know that that's where Semitic comes from. But then, because it was Germany in the 1700s, they were mostly talking about the Jews for the Semites. And so that's why anti-Semite mostly came.
You jumped some steps,
All right,
but
break it down.
Okay, so 1700s, the guy was like, all right, Semites, this is how we distinguish the different races based on their languages.
Yep.
Specifically, they wanted to distinguish other races from the Aryan race.
Always.
They said, listen, we're from Aryan heritage. This is something else.
Yeah.
Okay. The Semites, like you said, included those languages. The main two, obviously, being Hebrew and Arabic. Those are the ones that most people speak. I mean, Aramaic was a thing. It wasn't really huge at that time.
Yeah.
Like, unless you know Jesus directly, it's not really about.
Shout out to my Assyrians.
Yeah.
Couple still out there.
Yeah, and then of course a lot of people. There's some Ethiopian people who speak Semitic languages as well.
Just a couple.
Right. So that was his distinction, and then, so that was like subtle racism. It was like, let's distinguish, let's classify, right? So the problem started in the 1800s when a French scholar published a paper that flat out said the Aryan races are better than the Semitic races.
Yeah, that was usually what they used to say. Sometimes still
But he
do.
was published. I mean, like, racism back in the day was
legit.
It was accredited.
Yeah.
So he says that. He says Semitic. He said in every way, Semitic is inferior to Aryan.
So then, how did Semitic only get to be today thought about with Jews?
So at the time, again, he was just talking about all Semitic peoples, right? At this time, the racism was there, but it was all inclusive.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was inclusive racism. So he publishes that. An Austrian scholar, a Jewish Austrian scholar, saw that paper and was like, hey guys, does anybody notice that's a little racist?
Yeah.
And so he coins the term anti-Semite, an Austrian version of it. I think it's like anti-Semitish or something. I don't speak Austrian.
Me either, but that was close enough.
It was pretty good. I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I just think of like Arnold, like anti-Semites, like.
I think of Arnold when I think of anti-Semites too, and his father.
Yeah. So in Austria, a Jewish scholar says he makes this term basically the root which eventually becomes anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is what you call somebody who hates the Semitic races, whether it's people who speak Hebrew, people who speak Arabic, whatever, all of the Semitic races. He coins that term. The Germans hear that. They hear, because he publishes that.
Right.
He's like, from here on out, anybody who hates the Semitic races will be called anti-Semitic. And the Germans are like, yeah, I like that.
There's a name for our type of hate.
Yeah.
We want a name for it.
Yeah, you're like, finally, somebody who makes this sound professional.
Yeah.
And so the Germans, specifically the Nazis, as time went on and the Nazis came about, they started to self-identify as anti-Semitic because, it made their hate sound more professional. And at that time in Nazi Germany, from late 1800s through early 1900s, that movement developed as specific hatred towards the Jews.
Right.
And so they applied.
I've heard of that.
If you've heard of this
I've
one.
I've heard of that one. Yep.
I've heard, yeah.
I've heard a couple things.
So they started to use the term anti-Semitic in regards to specifically hatred towards the Jews. They popularized that term by self-identifying, and so the term became popularized by the Nazis as anti-Semitic means hatred towards the Jews.
So it's a racist term.
It's a racist term to start.
And then it became more specific in its racism.
Spread and popularized by even more racism.
And then it started out being anti-Jewish and anti-Arab hate, and then got named as just anti-Jewish hate. Yeah. And the anti-Arab or the Arab solidarity, all that got left out.
Right.
So it's a racist term that became exclusionary, double racist.
It became double racist.
So basically what you're saying is we need to go back to the more inclusionary form of racism.
At least go back to inclusionary racist.
Semitic.
Anti-Semitic is only getting part of the situation. It's semi-Semitic.
And that's why we're here on Friday Night Semites, to make sure that everybody's exclusionary racism becomes a little more cross-pollinated, intersectional, if you will.
Our guest is amazing tonight. She's recently been stirring up a lot of controversy on podcasts, so we figured we could use the buzz too. Let's all bring out our friend Amanda Seals.
Hey. Welcome to the show.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Yeah, we do whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
I am on the show.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Take a sip.
So,
you bring up the saucer too.
Is there honey?
That's something we didn't think about.
It's the first episode.
Moving
forward, there'll be honey.
You can just dip some baklava in it and get a little sweet.
Okay.
So we do have it Friday night. We got some treats for everybody. We got a little falafel, some doma, some baklava.
Mango.
What do you call it? I say baklava.
Baklava.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And then, of course, to round out our Semitic meal tonight, some mango.
Mango.
I peeped the mango. I was like, okay.
So a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm from Grenada.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
I feel like that's really for me.
Yeah. So
it's cross-cultural in all the ways.
Well, thank you for being here and being willing to be the first in our garage. I mean,
I'm honored.
yeah.
Are you?
I am. I mean, I'm not big on black firsts, but I'll take this one.
Well, yeah, we're big fans of a lot of the work you've done, and a lot of people know, how active you are on many issues. But I am curious how you got involved in the Palestine issue.
In 2021, when I was still in my house, because I don't know did you hear about the pandemic issue?
No.
We've been in the garage since then.
I can see how that could happen. So my stepmother's Palestinian, but that never resonated, it was never presented to me as this is a thing that we need to be learning and knowing about. And I won't say that I got to spend a lot of time with my stepmother as an adult, but my sisters and my brothers, of course, are Afro-Palestinian. And my sister Netta, who is my spirit, just in another body.
Yep.
She also had never, and she explained to me later, she was like, yeah, we just never talk about being Palestinian because it was not okay. You always are facing some type of backlash. You could be at your job and get fired from your job, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Mark Lamont Hill is a good friend of mine, and he's always been involved since I've known him in the Palestine movement. But again, it was never really contextualized for me as something I needed to know about, which is what I think a lot of black people in America feel. They're like, oh, that's something that's happening over there. Even with Mark, it was like, oh, I guess he's just into Middle Eastern studies. Like that's where my ignorance had led me.
Right.
And then also I have a lot of Jewish people around me, but
me too.
Yes.
Yeah. I got a couple. Yeah.
A few.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Hey.
Touché.
In comedy. Yeah.
But I didn't know that I had Zionists around me because that was not a term that had been contextualized for me before either. And so when the annual attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque happened in 2021, again, we were all in the house. And so I think that because folks were not as distracted, it allowed for there to be more of a groundswell of information. And I remember specifically also that being a year after BLM. And during Black Lives Matter, I think I just entered into different people's timelines than I was before because of my outspokenness around the Black Lives Matter movement. And I say that because I went from just being like this person who'll be talking stuff and who's funny and who's on a TV show to, for a lot of people, like, oh, this is somebody who is a social justice advocate, who's informed, etc. And so then when this happened, those same people who saw me advocating so much for BLM, in many ways were Palestinians saying, well, you need to be advocating for us too. And I will say that I definitely had, I'm going to use this wording, had fallen prey to the misnomer that questioning anything around Jewish involvement with Zionism was anti-Semitic, right? Because this is now me learning like, oh, what is Zionism, right? Then I had people around me telling me like, you shouldn't be asking about, you shouldn't be looking into, this is way too difficult for you, which, let me tell you something. The best way to get me to learn about something...
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's not even don't do it. It's tell me I'm too dumb to do it. Because now I'm just going to be petty.
It's really complicated.
It's really, you can't grasp it. What? That is now petty intellectualism.
It's
now
like
I'm going to learn it just to go fuck yourself.
Yes.
Like, so... I also have a master's in African American studies, so I mean, I'm also academically trained in identifying white bullshit. So, I mean, that's a skill that I paid a lot of money to be able to do like on an academic scholarly level. So it took me approximately 7 minutes and maybe 42 seconds to be able to say, oh, this is white bullshit. Like, that's what's happening in Palestine. Like, this is, y'all said it was complicated.
It took some people 75 years, so.
Listen, so that was the beginning. I dropped a couple friends, and then I started following Eye on Palestine and began to bring Palestine into my consciousness on a daily basis. And
following Eye on Palestine, it's very hard to not do that.
And that's the thing. Like you needed to do that because you need to have that consciousness. And America is so effective at keeping our blinders on to really just invoke this narcissistic culture. America is a narcissistic culture that really teaches you that this is the best place in the world, even though there's nothing supporting that aside from access to fast food and like Skittles, but like candy. I would say honestly the best part of America is we have a lot of good candy.
We got good high
solid
fructose.
Candy,
we got
high
that good
fructose content. But I just say all that to say that my sister did an episode of my podcast, Small Doses, at that time. And when I asked her to do it, she was hesitant at first because of what the environment has been for so long around being Palestinian.
The backlash.
And she's like, I don't want to lose my job. And that was also contextual. I was like, I didn't even know that goes down like that. I'm actually impressed. I did not push her, and I'm a pushy broad. I did not push her, and she came back and was like, man, fuck that. Let's do this shit. and
you're like, that's the energy I need. Now let's go.
Sister. I never knew how much I missed ya.
Oh, wow.
And and so she did the episode, and it was so incredibly illuminating for not just myself, but for my audience. We even replayed it post October 7th because it still rang true. She talks about her grandfather and the Nakba and, they're leaving Haifa. And I think for a lot of people that heard that interview, it really helped to contextualize Palestine beyond a political headline, but as a personal experience. And because she's my sister, then they have a relativism to it because it's like, oh, well, she knows somebody. This is 1 degree. So post October 7th, I will say that a lot of what just drove the loud activism beyond just being a humanitarian was, again, just being incensed at the gaslighting. It's the willful effort to convince people that what's happening is not happening.
Right.
And when you know you have a platform of 2.3 million people, and you know that you have an ability to really like break things down, you just feel compelled to have to keep doing this until more and more people get it.
What were some of the myths, like you said, pre-2021, you know, like what were some of the ideas in your head? Like, you know, I grew up in a Jewish family, but not the mainstream Zionist family, but I still heard a lot of things. I'm curious, like I'm always curious, folks outside
I always heard
of the
Israel
Jewish.
is like just a fun place to go.
It's just a party
It's
on the
a party,
beach, on the
I would
Mediterranean.
the only two contexts I've heard about Israel were like, oh my God, Israel has like amazing beaches.
Right.
And can you imagine living in Israel? Can you imagine living in Israel and having to hear sirens because of the bombs every day? Like, so it was only those two contexts. And, you know, of course I'm a sympathetic, empathetic person. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine.
Right.
But I'm not even asking the question, well, why they got so much bombs going on?
Yeah.
And
Especially with those great beaches.
And whose beaches are they?
Whose beaches are there?
Yeah.
Whose beaches? What bitches is on these beaches?
What bitches took these beaches?
But you know, America has been so effective in its suppression of knowledge. I'm a really smart person, and I have learned more since October 7th than I have learned in the last 7 years.
That's real.
Like genuinely, I became radicalized within a matter of 2 months. And when I say radicalized, it's only because the norm is to not know shit and to be cool with that.
Right.
So at this point, literally like wanting to access more information for the sake of dismantling the, government.
You became a jihadi on knowledge.
Yes, I became a jihadi on knowledge. Intifada. It's just, I have no tolerance for stupidity. And I learned recently with
Thank you for hanging out with us.
No,
we appreciate,
listen. So
we appreciate the exception to the rule.
I used to think that made me elitist. And as I've learned more about my neurodivergence, I've come to understand that that's actually a part of my neurodivergence.
Okay.
Like I just can't stomach willful, like the logic, the linear way my mind works. It fucks with me. Like it literally like fucks with like my internal mechanism.
Oh, well, this issue is the worst then because it's like all the contradictions, all the hypocrisies,
So
all
like
the
you
things.
said, like what's the myth? Like, I mean, one of the myths that I feel was very present for me was that, again, that Israel was this like safe haven and that was okay.
Right.
Because that's the thing, because then you get tricked into feeling like you can't counter that or else you are now anti-Semitic. And at the end of the day, any place that is only okay for some is not okay.
Right.
Period.
Well, that's,
So thanks for having me.
So,
of course. No, that's,
I'll take this to go.
You just dropped a bomb inside of our minds.
It should be that simple though, right?
Yeah, it should be. So here's one of the contradictions, which we were talking about earlier, which is not just around Israel-Palestine, but America's own bullshit and mythologies, like around free speech. And it's like there's free speech, and then you get anywhere close to Palestine and Israel, and then it's like, oh, no. And so I'm curious, what has your experience been? I mean, it goes not just from art to entertainment, but it's also, you've got 20 states that have passed laws just even advocating for boycotting, divestment sanctions against Israel. Not even doing it, but advocating speech to non-violently protest. So you speak out on a lot of issues. Does it feel different? Like the free speech issues? Is it the same? Is it different?
It is different in the sense that I've never had anyone tell me very specifically, don't say this thing.
Right.
It's more so just been like, can you not be political?
In general.
Right? Yeah, like, can we just have a more lighthearted? I'm like, every time someone does that, I'm like, why did you hire me? Why did you hire me?
Have you checked me out?
Because it's not going to be, the funniest joke of the night is not going to be about like mustard.
I hope not.
I go to Williamsburg. But even when my agents we're having these weird conversations about like, I just feel like some of your posts are anti-Semitic. I'm like, which ones? Well, I haven't seen all of them. And you've never said anything to me about anything ever before.
Right.
On my internet.
Right.
And I have absolutely on my Instagram talked about a myriad of things.
Yeah.
I have college dates where I've had them reach out to my business relations manager and say, hey, we just want to make sure that Amanda's not going to talk about XYZ.
Yeah.
And
Palestine or other stuff?
Palestine. No, we just want to make sure Amanda's not going to talk about Palestine. That's the XYZ.
Yeah.
Amanda's not going to talk about Palestine. She's not going to say
As
the
if
word.
the colleges
She's not
don't
going to say the word.
already know.
It's a college, she's not going to say the word genocide, even something so specific as a word.
Yeah,
I've never experienced that before, and I think it is worth noting though. So y'all had no problem with me saying stuff about the black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
With me saying stuff about Black Lives Matter, with me saying stuff about that, and I think it's really genuinely because that is not going to disrupt our country's status quo. It's not. I know we like to think it will. It's not. What's happening now is there is an actual disruption that is creating fissures in this foundation built on Israel is something that we need to protect as Americans.
Right.
And
the 51st state.
It's the
one that you can't make fun of.
Right.
And as we know, whoever you can't make fun of is who has you by the balls.
Yeah.
That's who it is. All of that is so bizarre to really witness. I mean, free speech, when people would typically be talking about free speech, they'd be like, it's free speech. I can say what I want on your page. And I'm like, no, that's not what free speech means.
Yeah.
You can say what you want on my page and then I'll block you. You don't have the freedom to just come for my neck.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing the actual subversion of free speech in the Constitution, which is I can talk without y'all arresting me. And they're like, no,
except
not this thing.
Not here.
Yeah, and that's very frightening.
Yeah.
So you're somebody who's seen to some degree the inside of Hollywood. I mean, you've had success in LA. You've done well for your career. You've had agents.
Why is it to some degree? Why are you trying to shade me? You know what I'm saying? Why are you trying to minimize my?
You're killing it.
I'll tell you what, actually, I meant it in a good way. If I was like, you're Mrs. Hollywood out here, I would be like, get this fucking guy out of here.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, because I've said that to people before. They're like, come on, you're not part of the Hollywood establishment. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I am not.
So you've seen the inside of Hollywood in a lot of regards. You've lived the Hollywood life, agents, managers, and stuff. You already kind of gave us, a little bit, but how has that changed since you've been more outspoken?
I don't have any agents anymore. Of course, none of them are going to tell you explicitly.
Right.
But one of my agents, who I consider a friend, he voiced concern. And then, to his credit, he was like, I don't have a problem working with you. But then at that point, I said, well, I have a problem now because this isn't going to get better. Mm-hmm. He is Jewish. I don't think he identifies as I'm a Zionist, but he also doesn't identify as not. Sure. And I said, honestly, there's only 3 buckets. You're either a Zionist, an anti-Zionist, or you're in the middle. And if you're in the middle, then you might as well be in that first bucket because you're supporting by your silence. And I don't want to be in a scenario where you're having to negotiate how you negotiate for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we parted ways amicably. A few months later, after I signed my book deal, my book agent dropped me, which is
after the deal?
Yeah. And doesn't take commission. This is how I know that it's BS because I'm working. And I told her straight up, quit bullshitting me. Mm-hmm. It's insulting to me for you to be bullshitting me you don't know me. We have enough of a relationship, but people choose the empire all the time. So that was that. And then my other agent, who's not even at the agency anymore, she was like, you're on a list, and this is a list. The list doesn't have a heading. It's just the people that we have to let go. But what was interesting though was that in both of the cases of Jewish agents that had dropped me, they weren't aligning themselves to the deplorable language that we see coming from people like Deborah Messing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I was able to, I feel inform them about some of their own histories because of me doing my own research, and you start to understand how so many folks are really just kind of sherpa'd through into these political ideologies by family, by legacy, etc., without them even really knowing, until something like this happens where you end up having to choose a side based on what are my actual individual values, not just the values that have been passed down to me. I mean, I cried because you are used to a certain format of things that you think is what is necessary for you to like function. But I very quickly was recentered in knowing that this is pushing me in a direction that feels intuitively correct. I've been telling people that I'm divesting from celebrity. And what I mean by that is that being in the Hollywood belly of the beast does require, and in some cases you do sign a form, but some cases it's an unsigned, it's an unspoken commitment to upholding certain things and to being quiet about certain things, and even like the upholding of like, why do managers just get 10% because they show up?
Yeah. Right.
Why?
I don't know. I've been asking my manager, Sammy, why he's taking my 10%.
Like, it just doesn't make any...
Let's move on. Let's move on.
But like stuff like that is very much like, it's just accepted and it's nonsense. I had to actually actively disrupt my own things that I like aligned to, and I'm in the act of that right now. And even like being on a podcast like this, like there's me, I'm also having to be more responsible and conscious about the spaces that I want to be in. Because
let's examine that.
Well,
let's examine that.
This is why you need a manager. That's how we got to.
Because you inadvertently uphold the same shit that you're against, just by showing up.
What's interesting, obviously, whenever we're talking about Hollywood, as a Jewish, lefty, film-adjacent person, people are like, how do you deal with Hollywood to me? And I have not been on that type of list, but I've been on other lists. I've been for speaking out on Israel-Palestine. I've been put on what's called the self-hating, Israel-threatening Jewish list. It's the Jewish shit list, self-hating, Israel-threatening. But then when it comes to Hollywood, people are like, well, how do you deal with that, Josh? And the thing about because they're like, you got to be careful and don't play into the trope of, Hollywood is controlled by the Jews. And I'm like, no, it's not, because I've been trying to make a movie for a long time. No one's giving me, the movie. I'm still waiting for my bank. I'm still waiting for my media company. All my stereotypes I'm waiting to happen. I haven't got them yet. But the thing about free speech that's interesting, like when around Israel-Palestine, I think a lot about McCarthyism, and this is the new McCarthyism. And when you think about Hollywood and McCarthyism, what it often was in the blacklisted writers and the Hollywood 10 and all of that, it was often the blacklisted writers and actors and directors were often lefty. They were all lefty, but they were often Jewish radicals, and they were being blacklisted by Jewish conservative studio bosses.
Interesting.
And people don't talk about that. Oh yeah, Meyer and all the heads of all these ones, they were conservative. I mean, they were conservative capitalists.
What was the reason that they were turning on their own?
Oh, because it was McCarthyism, anti-communism. They wanted to be seen as patriotic, good Americans.
Right.
Good Americans, so not those Russians.
Yeah.
They didn't even think of it as selling out. They didn't think of the Jewish radicals as their people. They thought of them as communist traitors.
Because Russia also did a whole expulsion of the Jews, and they felt like that was them supporting the Bolsheviks?
That's a whole nother, it goes in multiple levels. But my point is that, like, this thing of that there's one demographic group, and that one demographic group has one idea or ideology is bullshit. And that is an example of like puncturing that myth, because you have, like, we have a phrase, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Like, we disagree on everything. The problem is on Israel, they try to make it so it's one opinion.
Yes.
Israel from Hebrew means to wrestle with. Like, not physically wrestle, but like to debate, to struggle. You either say wrestle with God, wrestle with each other. The best Jewish shit is we're yelling, debating, and disagreeing with each other.
Best Jewish shit.
That's all we have done for thousands of years. Yeah, with, some bagels and some things. And on this, they want to silence the debate. You at least need to tell me where you stand. But a lot of people, they get scared, but it's often not even their own fear. They're using someone else's fear as an excuse. And I'm like, stand on your own shit.
So you're actually
stand
saying,
on your own shit.
You're saying it's actually anti-Israel to criticize, to shut down debate about Israel.
Damn right, it's
It's anti-Jewish.
It's anti-Jewish. It's anti-Semitic to squash debate on Israel. It's not the way.
Yeah.
I'm saying they take it all the way.
That's one thing I will give Zionists. They are committed, okay? That is a committed cause.
People out there, tell your significant others, you commit like a Zionist.
Yes.
Okay, you get down on your knees, put that ring on, and you commit like a
Make me believe it.
Zionist.
For 75 years or more.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's for the wrong reasons, but I think that you are a great example to celebrities who are, again, for the wrong reasons. Celebrities are scared.
He meant that as a compliment.
I know. I'm just.
Yeah.
My phrasing seems to be coming out as, but
No.
I know you.
No,
I would want to
I'm just
identify
listening. These celebrity. The whole idea of celebrity is also like just some fuck shit at this point because it's not. It used to mean a celebrated person, and typically like someone is being celebrated. If I look back at the '80s, like. Celebrities were people who actually like did something.
God forbid.
For the most part.
Yeah.
like Sylvester Stallone.
Even Princess Di was actively doing things for AIDS research and for landmines. Like she was actively using her celebrity for good, right?
For landmines or against landmines?
For
I'm just fucking around.
landmine awareness.
I'm just saying.
Like, remember she like walked through a landmine, like to like get people to know, like, no, this shit is real.
I mean, this whole Israel-Palestine situation is really a landmines. You know what I'm saying?
Oh God.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It was right there. You had to do it.
You guys
had
had
to
to,
do it.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would actually look down on you.
That deserves a little mango.
But I just say that to say that at this point, I'm like you, where I'm like, well, if you are a celebrity, then you have responsibility because now you have platform, and so with that platform, there should be some level of regard that you're using that for beyond just promoting your stuff.
Right.
But then you have other people who are like, no, that's actually not necessary. Celebrities are really just people who we want to escape with.
Right.
Right. Bread and circuses.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
DJ Khaled.
Let me ask this. Forget the celebrity shit as an artist. Like as an
that's
artist,
different.
I
As
know
an
that's
artist,
why I said
it's imperative.
So I want to ask. Actually, it's for both of you guys. I wanted to ask not just as an artist, but in particular as a comedian. Like, what is the role of the artist, the comedian, during a war, during a genocide? You guys are hitting stages across the country. People are like, how do you laugh during this shit? Now, I'm Jewish. We come from gallows humor as part of our thing. But like,
I mean, I'm black.
Yeah,
like,
I'm saying.
that's all we're doing too.
So
I
like,
mean, they in the fields like, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you can come up with jokes in the cotton, baby, what you talking about? I mean, I don't know. I feel like, Sammy, I just feel like it depends on because the type of person you are is the type of comedian you are.
Right. For sure.
Right.
So it's not enough to just say as a comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately it's what kind of person are you? I don't consider all comedians artists.
Okay.
There's that.
Shots fired.
Names.
But I also don't consider all people brave.
For sure.
And I think it would be a lot easier to talk about something so for instance, like talking about 9/11 in the context of those are bad guys, like that for a comedian is low-hanging fruit because like that was the consensus, right? Yeah. But at this point, we're in a time where, like we've talked about with the free speech, if you're going to like speak about this, you already know that there's going to be possible backlash. You also know that you're up against ignorance.
For sure.
So as a comic, that also means like, damn, these people might not laugh.
Yeah. You gotta be
because they don't get the joke.
Yeah, you got the education, but to get the punchline.
Yeah.
If comics knew that they would get laughs, then they would say
do it.
They just wouldn't. That's the only reason.
Yeah. I mean, I walked 3 white people the other day because by the 3rd time I said colonizer, they were like, oh, we didn't come here for this.
There's a 3 colonizer maximum.
Yes, 2 drink minimum.
Yes, 3 colonizer maximum. There we go. Working.
That's the official maxim these days.
Yeah.
So I just, I also feel like the more that we've gotten into this world that is so, artists are so accessible.
Yeah.
Remember, before, like, your art spoke for you.
Right.
And now it's not just your art. Like, you speak for you.
Yeah.
Who you follow speaks for you. I mean, someone
Right.
DM'd me today, like, I see that you follow so-and-so, and I just wanted you to know XYZ. I'm like, I didn't even know I followed him.
Oh, I get those messages
You
too.
know? And because I'm sure I'm following, like, bleeding heart Zionists
People are like,
right
why
now.
do you follow Michael Rappaport? For material, bro. Like, I got a job to
Inspiration.
do. Yeah.
So I just, nuance has become so real. Like, nuance has become nuanced at this point. And
nuance is controversial.
it really is.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
It's very how dare you point out this very important, illuminating factor and difference.
Right.
But I will say that for me, I am always and have always been an artist who believes that art should be illuminating, art should be benevolent. You know, it's it's a conversation between me and my audience. It's not just it's not just me jacking off at my own creative ability. Like, that doesn't really serve. And
Well,
so
speak for yourself, but I will say that
I'm gonna counter that. But I mean, at this point, I'm like, so when I was in school, I created my own major.
Yeah.
They didn't have one. They didn't have a Black Studies major. I created my own major, and that's what I'm doing at this point in my life. Like, I don't even want the title of comedian anymore. I'm like, I am an artistic intellectual. I use humor to educate and entertain. That's it.
Boom.
Right.
And you know, if I continue on this path in the most honest and committed way possible, I hope that I craft a new pathway for people, for artists to commit to, you know, because I haven't had a blueprint to follow in this journey as an active artist and activist, because usually it's like one gives way to the other.
Yeah, you can't do it both.
It's
you want
tough.
the both ends.
Yeah.
Break the false binary.
I mean, Nina Simone is one, but you know, you look at Baldwin, and for what it's worth, like, a lot of Baldwin's writing happened, and then he, you know, really had his radicalism, and that's when you see, like, The Fire Next Time. But he also had to deal with folks being like, oh, you're not our little darling black boy anymore.
Right.
You actually know shit, and you're talking about the government, and that was the whole reason why we brought you to this Iowa Writers Workshop, so that you could learn not how to talk about, like, we didn't want you talking about the government. Look that up.
Form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, you know, just being people and the difficulty of being people, not the realities that the government makes it difficult for some people to be people than it does for others.
The shit they teach in those writers' workshops, because I've been in those, is the opposite way. They say be as specific as possible. Tell your story, write the shit no one else can tell but you. But then when you talk about it, where you talk about either blackness, Palestinian identity, you know, whatever you want to say, crazy Jewish shit, they're like, no, let's get a little more universal. And you know what that is? That's just bad writing. Like,
it is.
You know, you got the more specific becomes the universal.
Though. But think about that. It's the same with Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's this idea that we want stories, but we really don't.
Yeah.
Like, we want
the same story.
An Asian family that acts like every other family, but, like, has Asian touches. We want a black family that has, like, you know, little black quirks, but it's still a black family. Like, when you look at, like, Fresh Off the Boat, you look at Blackish, like, you look at even The Cosby Show, like, these are all still, like, we're a wholesome family that is pushing forward this nuclear family construct. Even Modern Family is still like, we are a nuclear, like, look, here's a husband, here's a wife, like, so these tropes are not by accident.
For sure.
Right. That's why I never made it in Hollywood. It never clicked for me because, well, that's one of 7 reasons why I never made it in Hollywood. Is that they always wanted this trope of a family when deciding what your sitcom would be. And my family's just so atypical. Like, they can't really be described by tropes. So every time I pitched something, it didn't hit with them. They're like, we have something that fits a little bit more. Then I started to make it on my own. But I started talking about Palestine a lot more than I had even previously. And then I was like, you know what, things are going well on my own, so I might as well just build my own thing where I don't have to be constrained to tropes or expectations.
I've had to just commit to being okay with being not a selfish artist, but a sufficient artist. Like the ecosystem of Amanda is enough.
Right.
And you get tricked into feeling like, no, like I need to have a platform that's giving everybody else a platform.
Right.
And it becomes very, very hard to do that because honestly, this Hollywood system has tricked everybody into not trusting.
Right.
And so you try and work with other people, but then they start looking at you now that you're like the source. They look at you like you're NBC, and then they start being like, well, where's the money? And you're like, oh.
No,
you know what?
I'm not that.
I'm not them.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you was over here.
Yeah.
So I've had to really just commit myself to being Tyler Perry in the self-sufficientness, but like with good wigs.
So you went to Columbia.
I did go to Columbia for grad.
For grad, and how like, you know, in the recent event, how has this all felt to you? What are your thoughts?
I was so and just engorged with joy at seeing these students at Columbia really be not just loud but defiant and unwavering. Unwavering.
Yeah.
And then to see it just domino across the globe it's still going. And then even to my undergrad alma mater, SUNY Purchase, and they actually were able to get a conversation.
Shout out to SUNY, shout out to the state schools, because everyone always talks about Harvard, Yale, whatever. I like to get,
no love for the community college.
State over here, Humboldt State, you know what I'm saying?
It's affordable.
DeVry.
Phoenix University. not too many
encampments. Why you sitting on the couch right here? Yo, ask yourself, what school are you going to? So I just got the honor of hosting the People's Graduation, which was a ceremony that was done in New York.
I saw that.
At Columbia, and for Columbia students and faculty who were a part of this movement. I emceed the event, but you know, we had Nora Ericat there, and Mona Shalabi, and Adrienne Marie Brown. I mean, it was just a really beautiful space to be in, and to be able to shine light on these students who, you know, have really put their futures in jeopardy, and there really is no excuse to not support them, period. And that's why when you see me loudly saying that about people that I know, people are like, oh, you know, you shouldn't be choosing opinion over friendship. I'm like, at what point did you all become so fucking mealy-mouthed that there's an opinion to be had on whether or not students should be able to peaceful protest without being attacked by hundreds of police in riot gear? That's an opinion? Like, at a certain point, it's just like, no, that's just a fact that shouldn't happen. Period. Even constitutionally, that just shouldn't happen.
And all the conservatives always saying free speech on campus, and then...
I mean, the conservatives are liars. They're also like, small government, but give me your uterus, or else.
The uterus is a small government.
Oh, God.
Come on, nothing?
We love you, Sammy.
A lot goes on in there.
We love you,
A lot
Sammy.
goes on in there.
I'm going to let Amanda
respond to that. There's no real jurisdiction. No one has
I'm not saying anybody specific
owns
it. I'm just saying the universe itself as a system.
As one who possesses a uterus, I can tell you, it is dysfunctional like our government. I mean, you never know which way it's going to go.
That was very generous.
I was just giving the premise.
Very generous.
Okay? I will tell you that. You really never know which way things are gonna go. But yeah, so that, I mean, I got to go to the encampment, and I say I got to go because I consider it to be an honor to be able to be welcomed into that space. Someone I know who's in government went to one of the encampments, and she was very upset that she wasn't received, because she actually comes from organizing, and she was like, you know, I followed all the instructions, and I showed up, and I got iced, man. Like, they was really not feeling me. And I was like, yeah, because you were op. And she was like, no, what do you mean? And I was like, you know, I fuck with you heavy, but once you go in them doors, you a op. You might be the less oppy of the ops, but you a op, B. And she was like, ooh, this was an illuminating conversation.
Hey, that's the new lesser of two evils, the less oppy of the ops.
The less oppy of the ops.
Yeah, I like it.
But I had to ask myself, too, would I have been doing this were I here?
Yeah.
And I think that really is something we should all be asking ourselves. The 2 questions we should always be asking ourselves when we see these things is like, would I be doing it? And if Harriet Tubman came back, would she shoot me? Like, these are the 2 questions I feel like everyone should ask themselves. Because Harriet was shooting anybody, apparently. She was shooting anybody who was going to turn back.
Right.
Or who got too scared.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, is she cocking the pistol my way? And if so, it's time to go to therapy. Or at least to a hard jog around the block.
Yeah. We've got the couch for the therapy.
Yeah.
We got the couch for the therapy. I want to ask a different question because I know you're a hip hop head.
I am.
I don't know if you saw Macklemore as the person coming to drop
this
the
is a tough one.
This is, like...
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Break it down because
when I started watching the video, I wanted to hate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't even have anything against Ben, but I just was like,
he put his government name out here. Okay.
I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
People put on a keffiyeh and want to rap.
Yeah.
And then 16 bars in, I was like, this is actually pretty solid.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Really good.
It's not bad.
So I had to DM him, and I was like, good shit, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you, Amanda.
Oh, wow. He's like, thanks, call me Ben.
Did he send the
That's literally his name on IG.
hands emoji?
I want to say he did.
Probably.
I want to say.
Did he say you should have won the Grammy?
He's a cool dude. I mean, I think for what it's worth,
I mean, it's great. It's great.
It's overdue. I mean, as a hip hop head, I'm wholly horrified by the complete dearth of music addressing any form of this.
There you go.
And then you had Drake and Kendrick, and people are like, oh, you're not really a hip hop head because you're not really into this. And I was like, maybe I'm a purist, but I can't see value in watching 2 billionaires gossip about each other on wax in the context of what's happening right now. Like if that was maybe a year ago and everything wasn't as in the face, I could maybe, kind of give in. But at this point, I'm just like, this is not interesting.
Yeah.
And I love Kendrick and I tolerate Drake.
I mean, for Macklemore, what I love is like, you look at his evolution and 2014, 10 years ago, the nice white liberal Macklemore, he's like, same love. It's like, I'm pro gay marriage, but I'm not gay. That was basically what he was like. He was like,
it's
no
cool
homo.
What you guys are doing. What you guys are doing, I support it. I don't want to do it myself, but you know what? Hey, kiss away.
And from that to 10 years later, he's like, we need a worldwide revolution.
But it bees like that. I mean, listen, last year.
I'll take it, Mac.
I did a documentary last year called In Amanda We Trust. It's a political comedy documentary. I did this based on my feeling like not enough people are curious enough about how our government actually functions in order to be able to shift it.
Right.
But that is still a reformist perspective because it still assumes that it's going to require being a part of government to change it. And it wasn't until post October 7th that I just you read enough Noam Chomsky and you're like, what are we doing? But you really start to understand that there's so much that you just don't know. Yeah. And once you start to really open your mind to that, which is what I've really been trying to encourage my audience to do, is to open their mind to even just knowing how much they don't know. So many people feel so confident about what they think this is that it hampers your ability to actually be an effective disruptor. And so I can see how that could happen in even that amount of time, since it happened to me within a matter of 6 months. I
mean, part of why we're doing this is like, even when we agree, there's still a lot to learn.
It's a chasm.
And so I'm gonna just share something. I don't know. I see the keffiyeh over there. Mm-hmm. So I know maybe y'all can break it down. I know there's like the black and white keffiyeh. Mm-hmm. There's the red and white keffiyeh.
If you see that, run. I'm just kidding.
No, like literally.
So originally I was told that the red and white keffiyeh was more like Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
But I have a keffiyeh from Palestine that is red and white.
Okay.
But then like this became the symbol.
Yeah.
Like a keffiyeh is a keffiyeh.
Right.
And then it's who is it made by?
Right.
Where is it made?
Yeah.
but then there's the symbol, and then within the keffiyeh, like there's things that have different meaning, right? So like this represents the fishing, like, you know, the waters of Qasa.
Here, bring it out front. Let's take a look. This is important because I think this is the shit that we're talking about.
What
myths.
the stripes mean,
Yeah.
but to my knowledge, this represents the olive trees.
Do you get people, like when you rock a keffiyeh, do people say stuff?
For the most part, people say thank you for your support. For the most part,
Yeah.
I was on a flight.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's always a good place to be.
I was on a flight
Yeah.
wearing my keffiyeh, and it was this woman, and then her 2 kids were sitting across from us in the aisle. I mean, so across the aisle from us, and her daughter was like, "This is the nicest plane I've ever been on," and so I was just laughing because I made eye contact with her because like her daughter was just like so overjoyed. So we started chuckling, and then she like had to switch.
The woman or the daughter?
The woman.
Oh, okay.
And so
This 4-year-old was like, oh no. Oh no.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
And so the woman says, "You know, I'm Jewish.
Oh God.
So is it going to be a problem for you sitting next to me?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I didn't know you were Jewish until literally this second. But also, are you Zionist?" "Well, I'm Jewish, so of course I'm Zionist." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Plenty of Jewish people are not Zionists."
Yeah.
She was like, "Well, is it going to be a problem or not?"
You're the one who brought it up,
And
lady.
I said, "You know, ma'am, the problem is the genocide, not us sitting next to each other." And she was like, and she got up in a huff, and she took her Zarin ass down the aisle, and she got them to change her seat. Her 3 people had to move to accommodate her pseudo fear and her irrational fear. Apparently, she then because I didn't even show her face, but of course I showed the interaction.
Yeah.
And
So wait, you got a Zionist to move?
I know. I stood my ground.
Nice.
And she...
I was going to say, I don't know how you say Karen in Hebrew, but I'll learn.
Zadin.
Yeah. Oh, you got it? Yeah.
Zadin. And then the flight attendant who moved her, she tried to be snippy with me. And I had to look at her dead in her eyes, is this what you want to do? Is this is it what you want to do? Then the next flight attendant came, and I said, that flight attendant is very disrespectful. And she came back very different. "Would you like a Biscoff?" Yes, I would actually make it 2. But that was the only time I've ever had.
Was this first class, by the way?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, it was a dumb question.
There's very few things that I don't play about, and first class is one of them. When you fly as much as I fly, I really, first class.
We're gonna teach you for the next time that happens, the Yiddish, I don't know the Hebrew, the Yiddish to use for anyone who needs shanda. It means shame.
Oh.
Not Shonda Rhimes.
Shanda.
Exactly.
Shanda.
It's gonna confuse her so much.
Shanda.
Oh, that's perfect. That's just like my mother.
Okay.
So that'll be great. Yeah,
I love it.
When I said I wasn't gonna be a doctor, my mom was like, Shonda. But you know what you're gonna do? Start a podcast instead. So just throw a little fucking Yiddish at them.
Yes.
It'll mind fuck them so much they won't know what to do.
I'm a bit verklempt.
Yeah.
Okay, Shanda.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Because the Yiddish word that always throws me, I just feel like mensch sounds like a bad person.
Oh, it's the best.
But it's the best.
It's the best.
You're a mensch.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We were talking about Yiddish earlier, which is Yiddish comes from a combination of Hebrew, but also German and Slavic languages. So the ones that don't sound so good, like mensch is also how you say man in German. It's in
German is a real...
So it comes out like Übermensch, Nietzsche, all that bullshit. So, but mensch, you know that one? That's the highest compliment you can give someone.
What does it mean exactly?
It means human, but it's the best of a human being.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh.
Einstein, mensch, Malcolm X, mensch. Like this was, these are the true
One of our
mensches.
best. If the aliens came down, we'd be like this guy.
Yeah. I'm sure Malcolm would have
Is it
loved that I
only
said
for
a
men?
mensch. No.
It's
No.
learning.
No, in my family, it's
Women.
almost never for men.
Okay.
In my family.
It's always never for men. So it's unisex. Because for me, a unisex word is bitch. Men are bitches
we
far
get that.
more.
The men get that in my family too.
Got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool,
the women are the mensches, the men are the uber bitches.
Yes. All right.
Thanks, Mom.
So do you feel like as you have committed to, I'm just going to be on my own route, do you feel liberated in that? Or do
100%.
Tell me more.
1,000%. I mean, I always felt like I want to get good at the craft, and I want to play the Hollywood system and get a show or get on TV. I don't know if you had the same goals, but that was kind of like, I'm just going to work the system. I'm going to do what everybody says. It's what you do. You make a tight 7, you perform, you get on Montreal Just for Laughs, you get on Late Night,
Yes.
you get your own sitcom,
Yes.
and then, maybe you do a writer's room for a little bit,
Yes.
and then you get in the movies, and then
Yeah,
you're
you're
doing
famous.
stand-up. Yeah. And I was like, that was the game that was laid out. But when I started back in 2007, and then as I went through the steps year after year, the game kept changing. The system kept like falling apart.
The
goalposts moved. Social media, the DIY mentality, totally. It kept growing and growing and growing until I had these lost years where like I was rep for a little while, I had some buzz, and then they all dropped me. And then
Why'd they drop you?
I don't know.
They just felt he's run his course.
I wasn't lucrative. And I mean, I think in their defense, I think that I hit it a little bit too early. I don't think I was ready. I think I didn't have all the ideas I needed to. I didn't think I had the skill set.
I disagree. I think he was ready. They were not ready for him.
Yeah.
That's a friend right
I was
there. That's
also,
a man.
You know what I'm
It was
saying?
also the time that I started talking about Palestine publicly. There was a little bit of that overlap, but whatever. That's just a conspiracy. So then I had these lost years where I was just like, I got to figure this out on my own and work hard. And then I got on Netflix, and then the pandemic happened. And then so I was like, okay, the timing is whatever. And then so when the pandemic happened, as you know, through the pandemic, like the industry kind of a lot of it fell apart. I mean, it's still functional, but at that point, the model was you can just put your clips on social media and build your own fan base. So that's just what I did. Started getting the fan base, and now like I don't even think about Hollywood. I don't even need Hollywood for anything. And it's like, if I want to be in a movie, I could just make a movie.
Isn't that dope?
Yeah. So it's completely liberating.
Do you feel like other comics get it when you tell them this?
Yeah, it's to a degree. I feel like most comics are now aware that like you can make it under that model.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are still chasing the industry dream.
Old school dream.
You know? Yeah. I think those are people who are either they started in the time where it was still functioning, or like they still see it and they want to be a part of it. But I think most people kind of know now.
I do think there is something to be said, though, for having a certain like self-fortification where you aren't requiring the studios to affirm you.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of that I've noticed. Like this feeling like, yeah, I could do it by myself, but that doesn't mean it's going to be at the same level as this. And so then it's not as valuable.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, if I did that shit by myself, it's more valuable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Whenever I talk about my documentary, which you can get on my Patreon and you can go to inamandawetrust.com. When I talk about my documentary, it's like, no, I always am like, no, I made this with my money. I made this with all of my own money. I had to figure this whole shit out from the top to bottom. And therefore, it is far more valuable because I didn't have a whole staff.
For sure.
That was committed to this project. I try and cultivate that. If you can rely on you, then the rest of this stuff is just, and especially now, if you're gonna be somebody who stands for something, you better be able to rely on you. And at this point, I just feel like beyond being someone who uses humor, I really just think we're so far behind. Those of us with good hearts are so far behind the evil.
For sure.
It's like there's only 6 members of the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It's like the Empire done got the whole fucking galaxy figured out, and we're sitting here at the Jedi Council like, I guess we should have trained more Jedis.
Right.
Because how are we going to beat this? And now we have to go through an entire Clone War.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we are.
And no one liked that one, so.
Shout out to Ahsoka Tano, that is voiced by Ashley Drain, who went to high school with me. Dr. Phillips forever. But I use Star Wars metaphors all the time because it's so blatant that like that's really where we are. We're so far behind and people are still looking for a Luke Skywalker. It's like, no, everybody is gonna have to be a part of the fucking Rebel Force. Like everybody.
Well, and the fucking metaphor got lost in translation when George Lucas wrote Star Wars. The Jedis, the rebellions, the rebels, that was the Viet Cong. That was a metaphor for Vietnam. And the Empire, Darth Vader, was the US. And everyone forgets that part. And so America in the movies.
We are the bad.
We root for the rebels in the movies and we don't realize we're the Empire in real life.
We're always the bad guys.
And
we are the Dark Force.
But
we are the Dark Army. We are Voldemort.
But the thing is, I don't know.
Expecto Patronum. Like, I'm just saying, we're always the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like, in the never-ending story, we're the nothing.
Oh, we're going there. Oh, man.
Atreyu!
Oh, man. You're getting my 80s nostalgia all worked up here. I forgot what we were talking about.
I mean, it's just, keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the thing is, if you're going to take that metaphor, which is there's always the way the empire goes down in Star Wars or any of these movies is there's people on the inside who flip and join the rebels. There's somebody who comes over, and you need those people. And if we are within the empire,
but who came over? I mean, there's Lando, but he wasn't really down for anything except just being the fly guy.
I guess I'm thinking the new one. There was John Boyega, and he came over. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. But even then, I'm going to challenge you on.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to challenge you on.
I can tell you're really into the Star Wars, and I can tell.
Some fucking nerds.
This is a Jedi symbol.
I can tell I've gone.
Yeah, because you have to understand.
We should stick to safe topics like Palestine and Israel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because John Boyega's character was not. And he was not a part.
They messed him up in the last couple ones, but in the first one, you know,
No.
I'll break it down.
No, because he is only an Imperial stormtrooper because he, as a child, was kidnapped, from a planet where they had invaded.
Right.
And so it was like being
FN, blah blah blah.
Yeah, like it's just like it's like the rebel troops who then are taking children from their villages in the Congo and Sudan and making them join to then hurt their own people.
Right.
He was not like there because unlike the salt of the earth Americans who are like, I'm gonna go fight for Israel in the IOF, and it's like, no, that you didn't have to go
back to New Jersey.
So yeah, I just want to get that clear.
Yeah.
So we don't have any misconceptions. Yeah.
Star Wars, we've cleared up.
Yeah, now we've cleared it up. Now if you want to get into Star Trek, we can do that too.
Yeah. No, I definitely do not want to touch that.
Okay, got it. Cool. But I really do feel like what I'm trying to do on a daily basis is get folks to acknowledge their own ability to be leaders.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. Like, you don't have to be Malcolm X, but like, you can be leading the conversation at your dinner table wouldn't have happened before. And I know that may sound like real, like, I don't know, like woo-woo or ideological, but I just think that in order to actively pursue the learning that we need to have in order to really challenge what's happening, you have to first believe that you can do something about it, because like humans need a carrot to go towards.
Yep.
And they've done such a good job at numbing folks and like convincing everyone that you don't got what it takes.
Less consuming and more being the protagonists of their own stories, like being the agents of change.
Like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Believes that she is the protagonist of her own story.
She believes a lot of things.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like these terrible people.
That's the takeaway. That's the takeaway for the show.
It's true though. These people, they don't question themselves.
Right,
There's nothing more confident than a mediocre white person. Like nothing.
I've met a couple.
Yeah, they're like, what? I'm me.
Yeah.
And then it's proven.
How do you think I got on this show?
Nice.
You Marjoried your way into it.
Damn you.
Well, you know. That and the Jewish space lasers.
You and your bleached blonde butch body.
On that note.
Lovely.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks
We appreciate you. We need more leaders. We need more artists who speak their mind. And thank you for coming through. We appreciate you, and we got your back.
Thank you.
And
do you like the chocolate, by the way?
The chocolate is delicious.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for hoarding that over there, but I'll get some when I can. And, beautiful
This is a shirt from Matthew. And we're in a real wild place where people think their only way of being heard is self-immolation. Like that should let you know how wild shit is. They're like, you know what? Only thing I can do is put myself on fire. Like, that's bonkers. It's either that or make a TikTok video. So like the fact that is the range lets us know that.
And the fact that happens, everybody's like, what the fuck? And then 3 days later, business as usual.
On.
That's how numb people are. Self-immolation is not even.
There's been 3.
Yeah.
3.
Crazy.
And they were all white people. That's the other part.
Yeah.
I'd be like, white people setting themselves on fire. Y'all don't care about that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely not doing a hunger strike.
Why y'all looking at me?
Because I'm like, listen, if the white lives don't even matter, y'all ain't gonna give a fuck if I starve myself. So,
right.
but it's really nice to be here. I love the space y'all are creating. It's necessary, it's needed, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Happy Friday, Friday Night Semites.
Shukran.
We out.
Shukran.